Verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. Okay, so when the Most High was telling Abram, which is Abraham, that you're going to go to your fathers in peace, that's because Abraham was following the ways of the Most High. He was doing exactly what the Most High was telling him to do. So when he said he's going to go to his fathers in peace, that means he's going to pass on into the spiritual realm with his ancestors, the other ones that was keeping the ways of the Most High with all faith, truth, and sincerity, right? Verse 16. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not full yet. Okay, so during that fourth generation, that means they're going to be sent back into the world, and they're going to get judged again because the iniquities of the Amorites, which is from the Canaanites, which is also from Ham, Noah's son, his sinful son, the iniquity of the Amorites wasn't full, right? Just as today, in the Gospels, Hamashiach says that the iniquity of the Gentiles isn't full yet. Now, that's not speaking about the original Gentiles, which is the sons of Japheth. That's speaking about the sons of Esau. All right, because if you read the book of Jashar in the chapters of 89 and 90, it says Esau, Edom, he conquered the children of Chittim or Kittim. All right, now the children of Kittim were from the Japhite lineage. All right, so being that Esau conquered them and he had them in subjection for an X number of years, of course, the normal things that goes on within a nation when you conquer them, you rape the women, you implant your seed in them, you mix and mingle your seed with them. So those descendants of Esau from the women that they conquered and took over and raped, those are descendants of him. That's his seed, Esau. Okay, because according to the book of Numbers, you are what your dad is. All right, so those people over there who they call Gentiles are really the descendants of Esau. All right, because the original children of Kittim, they was the Greeks. All right, and then when Esau came over there and conquered that land, they became the Romans. All right, the Rome man, the man who roams around like a vagabond, looking to steal and conquer and kill. All right, wherever he go. So that's the reason why he's called the Rome man, right? So just as back then, that's going on today. The iniquities of the heathen ain't fulfilled yet. In continuation. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. Verse 18. And the same day, the Most High made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Okay, so that's heading east of Egypt. Okay, going across the so-called Middle East, what they call today. All right, so when you look at the map of that region, you see the Euphrates that's east of the river Egypt, the Nile River. All right, so that's to let you know that the Most High was dealing with Abraham and his seed. Whatever children came out of Abraham, that's what the Most High was dealing with, right? So we're going to go to chapter 16, still in the book of Genesis. Okay, so in the book of Genesis chapter 16, and I'm going to start at verse 1, and it reads, Now Sarai, which is Sarah, right? But during this time she was called Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Okay, so Sarah's handmaid was Hagar. She was from the Hamitic lineage, right? Verse 2. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now the Most High hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid, it may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai, which is his wife, right? So what they call that today is like being a surrogate mom, all right? So being that the Most High had made Sarai or Sarah barren, she wasn't able to give children. She wasn't able to bring forth children for her husband Abraham. So that's the reason why she made Hagar, which is her handmaiden, a surrogate mom for Abraham to bear her a child, right? Although technically it would be Hagar's child, but being that Hagar was a servant of Sarai, Sarai was going to take her child because it was her husband planting his seed inside of her, right? Verse 3. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. Okay, so right there, when you read something like this also it lets you know that, when you have that type of relationship with a woman, it lets you know that that's actually the marriage. That's the confirmation of the marriage, because as it says here, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. Okay, so as you already know, Sarai was the wife of Abram, which is Abraham, but being that Sarah gave Hagar to Abram to bear him a child, Hagar became a wife, or you could say a concubine, right? Or you could say an unholy union, so to speak, because Hagar was an Egyptian. So she couldn't be fully a wife to Abram, but, she bared his seed, right? So that's letting you know that she became a wife when they pretty much did the do, right, so to speak. In continuation, verse 4. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Okay, so Sarai, she began to despise Hagar because, subconsciously she wanted Hagar to be barren too, right? Or she wanted to make sure that, if it was something wrong with her or not, because she wasn't able to bear a child for Abraham, but being that she's seen that Hagar was able to bear Abram's seed, that made her envy Hagar, because now it's like a confirmation that she knows something is wrong with her, right? Before, it was just like a speculation or a suggestion that the Most High made her barren, but she wanted to make sure by giving Hagar to Abraham to see what was really going on with her, right? Verse 4 again from the top. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Verse 5. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes, and the Most High judged between me and thee. So Sarah is letting Abraham know that, my sin be upon me. It's not you, the reason why we can't have children. It's me, right? It's something I have to make right with the Most High, right? It's not you, right? Unfortunately, most women don't do that nowadays, Even if it is something going wrong with them, or if it's something wrong that they've done, they like to blame the man still, right? Unfortunately. Verse 6. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleases thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. Okay, so all because Sarai was envious and jealous because Hagar bared Abraham a seed, she started to deal harshly with her, right? But Abraham told her, hey, she's your servant. You can do whatever you please with her. Although he probably thought, Sarah was handling her wrong because of her envy and jealousy towards her for doing that. But, before that passage there, before that scripture, Sarah admitted to it that it was my fault. I'm the one that gave her to your bosom to bear you a son. Although subconsciously I wanted to see if it was really something wrong with me, but being that I see that she bared, I still handled her without care. I handled her hatefully. I handled her disrespectfully. So, the problem is really with me. Not only, with this envy that I'm going through right now, but also spiritually, I have to make myself right with the Most High, right? So, but Abraham said, that's your servant. So, you can do as you please with her, right? Let's jump down to verse 15. And Hagar bare Abraham a son, and Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bared, Ishmael. Okay, so, if you're well fond to these scriptures, you will know that Ishmael and his descendants is known as the so-called Ishmaelites, right? Let's jump down to verse. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's go to chapter 17, right? I'm going to skip over 16 because 16 just says, and Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham, right? So we're going to go to verse 1 in chapter 17, right? And it reads, and when Abram was 90 years old and 9, right? Meaning, 99, so to speak. The Most High appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the mighty power, all right, which is the Most High, the Elohim, right? Walk before me and be thou perfect, all right? So that's also letting you know that you can be perfect in the eyes of the Most High, right? You don't have to be 100% flawless because, we are all in the flesh. We all prone to sin. Our flesh itself is sin. But the Most High said to Abraham, walk before me, meaning keep my ways and you shall be perfect, right? Verse 2. And I will make my covenant between me and thee and will multiply thee exceedingly, right? Meaning that he's going to bless Abraham, right? Verse 3. And Abram fell on his face, and the Most High talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. All right. So this, like I said before, according to the book of Numbers and other various books in the Torah, you are what your dad is, right? Verse 5. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be called Abraham. All right. So that's letting you know there that in chapter 17 in the book of Genesis, that's when Abram was changed to Abraham, right? In continuation, for a father of many nations have I made thee, verse 6, and I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. All right, meaning that he's going to bear a lot of children. He's going to be very fruitful, just as the Most High told us in the scriptures, to be fruitful and multiply, right? In continuation, verse 8. Or verse 7, rather, Salakia. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee and their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. Verse 8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan. Okay, so that's speaking about the land of the Amorites, all right? As it said, in the 15th chapter, in verse 16, it says that the iniquity of the Amorites isn't fulfilled yet. So that's talking about the land that the Most High is going to give us, or the descendants of Abraham, after the iniquities of the Amorites is fulfilled, right? In continuation, verse 8, wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, right? And also that lets you know that Abraham wasn't a Canaanite, right? He was just dwelling there. he was a citizen there. That's not to say that he was a Canaanite by ethnicity, right? Unfortunately, which most people say. He was just dwelling there, that's all, right? So if you have anyone that doesn't believe in the Bible or doesn't believe that the so-called descendants of Abraham, which is the descendants of Isaac and Jacob, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, also known as the so-called Negros, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of Negroid descent only. If you have one of those people that come and say, oh, well, Abraham was a Canaanite, all this right here that says that he was dwelling in the land of Canaan, and the Most High gave him that land after the Amorites' iniquity was fulfilled, right? It didn't say anything about him being a Canaanite by ethnicity, right? Verse 8 again, in continuation for the middle. The land wherein thou art a stranger, okay, all in the land of Canaan, right? So when it says that, Salakia, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Okay, so the Most High is letting Abraham know that the descendants of him is going to be an everlasting covenant, right? Slakia, that was a neighbor's dog. Verse 9. And the Most High said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou shalt and thy seed after thee in the generations, in their generations. Okay, so the Most High is letting Abraham know that his seed, which is his children and his children's children, they're going to be the ones that's keeping the covenant. They're going to be keeping the laws, statutes, the commandments of the Most High, right? Verse 9 again from the top. And the Most High power said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations, right? Let's jump to chapter 18, still in the book of Genesis. And we're going to start at verse 9. And it reads, and they said unto him, where is Sarah, thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. All right. So this right here is talking about the angels that visited Abraham and Sarah, right? And they came to tell her the good news that she's going to be able to bear herself a son from Abraham, because the Most High is going to take away her barrenness, right? Verse 10. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which he was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women, meaning that, when Sarah, just like women nowadays, when you're up in age, some women aren't able to have children. When you reach a certain age, you're not passing your flower anymore. Your uterus is not producing, the necessary tools, which is the eggs to bear children anymore, to get fertilized by man's seed. So this is what this is speaking about here, right? Verse 11 again. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Verse 12. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? So right here, if you read this with a little bit of understanding and discernment, you will see that with Sarah, being that she says she's well stricken in age and her husband is well stricken in age too, she's saying, well, we already know what we have to do to have this kid, in order for me to conceive. Is it going to be pleasurable at least? Am I going to have any fun? Is my husband going to have any fun? Am I going to have to work with him extra to sort of, try to get it up and going, get that engine revving, so we can have a little fun here, right? So this is actually what Sarah is saying right here. If you can read this with a little bit of understanding, right? Verse 12 again. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also. So her Lord is her husband. All right. Sarah had that much respect for her husband to call him her Lord, basically, right? Verse 13. And the Most High said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Right? So they were saying to Abraham, like, yo, where's your wife Faith? Even though I know she's well stricken in age, she's up there. She's probably like in her 50s or 60s or whatever, something like that. If you want to relate it to today's age, she don't believe that she's able to bear a child, right? And here we are, we're messengers of the Lord, we're messengers of the Most High, and she still don't believe us, right? So that's basically what they're asking Abraham. Verse 14. Is anything too hard for the Most High? At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. All right, so that's what they told Abraham. They said, I see that she's not believing us right now, but we're going to return when she's actually bearing that seed of yours, right? And we're going to prove to her that we was right all of the while. The only thing that you had to do is just have faith in the Most High, that he's able to do this thing for you, right? Let's jump down to verse 17. Still in the book of Genesis, chapter 18. And the Most High said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Verse 18. Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Verse 19. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Most High power to do justice and judgment, that the Most High may bring upon Abraham that which he have spoken of him. All right, so that's letting you know right there, if you do what the Most High tells you to do, which is keep his laws, statutes, and commandments today, in which he gave by the hand of Moses in the Mount Sinai after the first exodus out of Egypt, he's going to bless you, right? He's going to make you fruitful and multiply, right? He's going to make you a mighty people in the face of your enemies, man, right? And all of that can still go on today. But unfortunately, a lot of our people have lost that faith, man. But the only thing that they have to do is come back to these scriptures, and they will see that the Most High is the same. He was the same yesterday, he's the same today, and he's the same tomorrow. In other words, he was the same way in the past, he can be the same way today, and he could be or will be the same way in the future. Okay, the only thing that you have to do is just hearken on to him and keep his ways, and he will bless you, man, right? Verse 19 again from the top. For I know him, that he will command his children, all right, in which all of us should be doing. If we have children, we should be commanding our children the ways of the Most High, to keep the ways of the Most High, right? Just like it says in the book of Proverbs, raise up a child in the way that they should go, not in the way that you want them to go, or the way that the mom want them to go, right? Or the family members or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Raise up a child in the way that they should go, which is the ways of the Most High, right? And his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Most High power to do justice and judgment. Okay, justice and judgment, meaning that they're going to judge righteously. If they see any of their people going off, they're going to give them that judgment, that righteous judgment, to let them know that they're going off and to get back on that straight and narrow path, right? that the Most High Power may bring upon Abraham that which he had spoken of him. All right. Let's go to chapter 21, still in the book of Genesis. So just like I said, this is all a breakdown from the lineage of Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to the 12 tribes, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, also to the so-called Negros, right? Which is also known as, of Negroid descent. The Negroes, the African Americans, the Caribbeans, the so-called Hispanics, right? So once again, we're going to chapter 21 in the book of Genesis. And I'm going to start at verse 1. You know what? And I'm going to read it all the way down to verse 14 too, right? And it reads, this, like I said, this is like a quick impromptu video concerning how Judah will lead the way. They're going to pave the way in waking up all of the tribes of Israel, right? And not only that, but also in every other aspect that's going on in the world today, man. It's like I said, with the so-called civil rights movement, with the political movement, in music, all right? The tribe of Judah influence all of the other tribes, man, right? That's the reason why, if you go to every other tribe, you're going to see a little bit of twist of Judah in there, because everything that they're doing, it's basically influenced from the tribe of Judah in nearly all aspects, right? And also that can be detrimental, because you can also pick up on all of the negative things that comes from that too, right? So once again, we're in the book of Genesis still, chapter 21, and I'm going to start at verse 1. And it reads, and the Most High visited Sarah, and he had said, and the Most High did unto Sarah as he had spoken. Verse 2, for Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, and at the set time of which the Most High Power had spoken to him. Verse 3, and Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. All right, so that's letting you know that, the son, which is, the holy marriage, the holy union between him and Sarah, which is of the chosen lineage of people of the Most High. He named their son Isaac, right? Now, mind you that the other son was named Ishmael, that was bared of Hagar, which was Sarah's handmaid. She was an Egyptian, right? Verse 4. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old. And the Most High Power had commanded him, right? So that's when you're commanded to physically circumcise your son when they're 8 days old, right? Verse 5. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. Verse 6. And Sarah said, the Most High Power have made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. All right, so now Sarah's becoming a believer, right, because of what was done. Verse 7. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? Meaning that, who was said on to Abraham that, your wife is going to have this son at this age that she is now, and then she's going to be actually breastfeeding this kid at her age that she is, right? Like, now, can you actually picture a woman that's like in her 70s or whatever breastfeeding a kid? I don't think so, right? That's going to be like sort of I don't want to say like a weird sight or anything like that, but it's not going to be usual. It's not going to be something that you're used to seeing. You know what I'm saying? You're used to seeing women like in their 20s, their 30s, right? Even in their 40s, nursing kids, right? Giving suck to kids. But, here Sarah she's like in her 70s, right? Maybe like 60s, late 60s or whatever, nursing children, giving suck to her son, which is Isaac, right? So this is the reason why she says this again, verse 6. And Sarah said, the Most High hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me, verse 7. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him son in his old age, verse 8. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Okay, so this is not to be confused with birth. Okay, like if you look up the definition of wean, that means when the child comes off the mother's milk, which is the mother's breast, meaning that the child is not going to need to be breastfed anymore. They can go into eating regular food, right? Or table food, as you will in today's sense, right? So that's what that means. It doesn't mean that when Isaac was born, Abraham had a birthday or a feast for him, because that wasn't of our chosen lineage custom, right? We didn't have birthdays, in which we shouldn't be doing today, because that's a custom of the heathen. And also that's written in the Satanic Bible. That's one of the most celebrated days, right? So celebrating birthdays was never a Hebrew or a Eber lineage custom, right? And if that was the case, it would have said that earlier in the chapter, right? But as it says here, verse 8 again, and the child grew and was weaned. Okay, so it didn't say anything about the child was born, all right, and then he gave a great feast. He was weaned, right? And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Okay, it didn't say anything about the same day that Isaac was born. All right. Verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had born to Abraham, mocking. Okay, so right here that's being said that Ishmael was mocking Isaac for whatever reason, right? Just being a wicked little child, right? Verse 10, wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be here with my son, even with Isaac. All right. So when Sarah seen that, just like how most women do nowadays, a lot of women have that gift to see things that men can't. They can pick up on things visually that men can't. So Abraham, he was just over there minding his own business, probably with his people, with, just mingling with the people or whatever. And Sarah happened to see what Ishmael was doing with Isaac. He was being mean towards Isaac. He was being wicked. He was mocking him, and Sarah picked up on that, but Abraham didn't. So Sarah called Abraham to the side, like, yo, you got to get rid of this woman and her son, because he's being mean to our son, right? And then on top of that, you bore him because I thought that I wasn't able to have kids, but now I bear you a son, so now you really don't need them around, right? Verse 11. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. All right, so even Abraham seen that, and it was grievous to him too, right? Verse 12. And the Most High said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, all right, which is the, like another terminology for boy. That was our terminologies back in the day. We used to say lad, not like, contrary to popular belief, today they say that the Scottish, started that word or invented that word, but that was our thing. We were saying lad, right? In continuation. And because of thy bondwoman and all that Sarah have said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for to Isaac shall thy seed be called. Okay, so that's letting you know also that not Ishmael or the descendants of Ishmael, which is the Ishmaelites, it says the descendants of Isaac, all right, which is also Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel, will thy seed be called. So that's what the covenant was for, because the marriage between Sarah and Abraham was the holy union, the holy matrimony, right? So that was the chosen lineage seed, right? In continuation, verse 13. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. Okay, so he said that Ishmael, he's going to make a nation, right? Because he is the seed of Abraham, right? Verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, put it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Okay, so if you look up the definition and the location of Beersheba, that's in modern day Saudi Arabia, right? Or Yemen, down towards that area, in which they call the so-called Middle East nowadays, right? But it's really still all Africa. So in continuation, we're going to jump to verse 15, still in the book of Genesis chapter 21, right? And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs, verse 16. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, and it were Bowshot. For she said, let me not see the death. All right, meaning that, it was sort of hot out there. It was like, in that region, what it's like nearly 100 degrees daily or even more, right? So it was hot when Hagar and Ishmael was out there, right? For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And the Most High heard the voice of the lad, okay, which is the boy. And the angel of the Most High called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what alive thee, Hagar? Fear not, for the Most High have heard the voice of the lad where he is. Okay, so that's also to let you know that the Most High was only dealing with the lineage of Abraham, which is his seed, and all of the other seed after them, right? So even though Hagar, she was crying out saying that, don't let her see the death, don't let her die out there with her son. But it was the lad, which was Ishmael, who the Most High heard, because Ishmael is the seed of Abraham. All right. Hagar was the Egyptian. So that's letting you know that the Most High wasn't dealing with the Egyptians, right? He don't speak with the Egyptians spiritually. Okay, but the Most High heard the crying of the lad, which was Ishmael, right? Even though he probably wasn't doing it like in a literal physical sense, but he was doing it within the spirit, within his mind, crying out to the Most High, like, preserve us, save us, don't let us die out here in this desert, right? And then the Most High heard the lad, which was Isaac. Okay. Verse 17 again. And the Most High power heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of the Most High called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what alive thee, Hagar? Fear not, for the Most High power have heard the voice of the lad where he is. Okay. Verse 18. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. Okay, and this is exactly what the Most High did. He made Ishmael and his descendants a great nation, right? They have the most oil, right? They have beautiful cities over there now, like Dubai, amongst all of the other cities right now, right? So, Ishmael was made a very good nation. They have the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, so to speak, right? Now, it's much deeper than that. You can look up the definition of Arab. It just means mixed race, right? So, according in Genesis, I believe it's the 36th chapter or the 35th chapter, in which we will get into, it is said that Esau, he took daughters of Ishmael, and he had children with them. So, that little seed lineage of Esau right there with Ishmael, that's what created the so-called Arabs, all right? And then you have the mixture of Canaan in there also, okay? So that's the reason why you have the Palestinians, right? And which are the Canaanites, and then they mix with the Ishmaelites, all right? That's why they have that Islamic faith. And then, of course, you have your Saudi Arabians, right? Your Sunni Saudi Arabians. Those are basically Edomites too, but they're Ishmaelites also, right? So when people say, oh, the Arabs is Esau, well, that's true, but not the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites is from Abraham, right? They have their own lineage, but actually they're being oppressed over there too. You know what I'm saying? Because they are of a darker hue. And then, of course, Esau, he have a problem with melanated people in the world today. So, that's the reason why the true Ishmaelites are oppressed over there. But Esau have his little lineage going on over there that's running things, that's controlling the UAE over there, right? Verse 19. And the Most High opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. Verse 20. And the Most High power was with the lad, okay? It didn't say that he was with Hagar. It says that he was with the lad, all right, which is Ishmael. And he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Panram, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Okay, so that's to let you know right there that some of the Egyptians over there are actually Ishmaelites, all right? That's why today you have the people in the land of Egypt today, they speak in Arabic language, or they have a Ishmaelite or an Islam faith because of this right here. Because of Ishmael, his mom, Hagar, took him a wife out of that land. Okay, so that's what raised the question, the people that had the children of Israel in captivity in Egypt, was it really so-called people of Mizraim, or were they Ishmaelites, right? So that raised that question there, okay? So in continuation, we're going to go to chapter 25, still in the book of Genesis. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of brothers and sisters, they're familiar with this chapter here, but for those who's unaware that's listening to this video, all of the newcomers, all of the new subscribers to my channel. Also, once again, thanks for joining, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for listening. Once again, we're in the book of Genesis chapter 25, and I'm starting at verse 1, and it reads, Then again, Abraham took a wife and named her, and her name, Salakia, was Keturah. And she bare him Zimran and Jokshan and Midian. Okay, so that's also letting you know that, when Abraham took him another wife of another nation, okay, which was another Egyptian, he had Midian by her. So, that's your so-called Midianites, right? That Moses was dealing with in the wilderness, okay? And then you also have your Median, all right, which is your Medes, your Persian and Medes, right? And Ishbak and Shua and Jokshan beget Sheba and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Asherim and Litushim and Limrumen. Verse 4. And the sons of Midian was Ephah and Epher and Hanok and Abidah and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. Okay, so Abraham was the dad of all of those kids, right? Verse 5. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. Verse 6. But the sons of the concubines, okay, the concubines, right, which was Hagar and Keturah, okay, which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived eastward onto the east country. Okay, so that's letting you know also that Abraham was only dealing with Isaac because he knew that Isaac was born of Sarah, which was from the Holy Union, except from Keturah. So with the children that he had with Keturah, he just sent them on their way. He gave them gifts and sent them on their way. So that's letting you know that the Most High also wasn't dealing with those nations either. All right. Verse 8. Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man, all right, just like the Most High said he would, right? And full of years, and was gathered to his people, verse 9. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in a cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, the Hittite, Salakia, which is before Mamre. Okay, verse 10. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth. All right, so that's talking about the Canaanites there because he was in the land of Canaan, right? So he purchased that burial site from those guys. There was Abraham buried and Sarah his wife, meaning that they was buried together, right? Verse 11. And it came to pass that after the death of Abraham, the Most High blessed his son Isaac. And Isaac dwelt by the well Lahai Roi. Okay. Verse 12. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, who Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah handmaid, bare unto Abraham. Right? So that's talking about the sons there. That Abraham had with Hagar, and Ishmael had his sons from the wife that his mom gave him from the land of Egypt, right? And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to the generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Namajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mapsam, verse 14, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, verse 15, and Hadar, and Tema, and Jator, and Naphish, and Kedema, verse 16. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations, verse 17. And these are the 12, Slakia, and these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the ghost and died and was gathered unto his people. Okay. It didn't say anything about Abraham, right? Verse 18. And they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest towards Assyria. And he died in the presence of all his brethren. Okay, so that's talking about how Ishmael had his own separate nation of people that was aside of Isaac, which is the chosen called lineage, right? So now we're going to go to, as a matter of fact, we're going to go to verse 19, right? We're going to continue on to verse 19. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, right? Verse 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, of Pandan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. Okay, so Syrian, that's sort of like eastward of the northern kingdom, right? If you can see on this map here, I'm not too sure if you can see it right here, but that's where Pandan Aram, that was sort of like, east of the northern kingdom. And Syria, of course, is around the northern kingdom too, right? So in continuation, we're going to jump down to verse 23. And it says, And the Most High said unto her, Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separate from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Okay, so back then, that's when the children of Israel, we had the rulership of the world. That's when we was following after righteousness, keeping the ways of the Most High, and the Most High was blessing us. That's when we had the rulership, and also we had rulership over the elder brother, which was Esau, right? That's the reason why it says the elder should serve the younger, and also that's a prophecy, a future time prophecy, because that's the way it's going to be again, right? As it says in the book of Apocrypha, Esau is the ending of the world thereof, and Jacob is the beginning of it, right? Verse 24. And when her days was to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Verse 25. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Okay, so as it says here, Esau came out red. Right now, you got a couple of brothers and sisters that's of this faith. They will say that he came out ruddy. Okay, but the scriptures don't say that. The scripture says that he came out red. That's it. It didn't say anything about him being ruddy. But you have some people out there, unfortunately, who believe that their enemies have salvation. They try to make an excuse for that word red and try to go into the etymology of the word and try to say, oh, look, see, well, this right here means ruddy too. Because if you look into the definition of the word ruddy, it has red, but the main definition of ruddy is brown, right? And then you have like a reddish brown because you can see a little bit of blood through the skin of the children of Israel, right? We have like a rosy texture to our brown. So that's the reason why, King David was called ruddy, because King David, he sort of had like a so-called fair complexion, as they say today. Now, if you look up the definition of what a fair complexion is, they would try to say that it's like pale or white sort of, but that's not true. The fair complexion, you can just look at the definition of the word, right? If you have a Caucasian person, which is white, right? And then you have a so-called African American, a Negro, right? And if you take a person and say, okay, well, we're going to get someone who's of a fair complexion between these two colors of people, you're going to get a people that falls in between these two complexions, right? So either they're going to be light brown or light skin. They're going to be ruddy, light skin. They're not going to be white or pale, right? Just like if you Google the definition of the word ruddy and then you look at the images, you're going to see them showing a whole bunch of Caucasian people. That's not true. And then they're going to say that's fair skin, right? That's not fair because that's a little bit too much on the white side, so to speak, right? So when you say a fair complected person, it have to be between someone who's of a darker hue and someone who's actually like close to white, so to speak, right? Or red, light red, I should say, because no one's white, no one's black, you know what I'm saying? So, they have to be between a light red or a ruddy brown, okay? So that's the definition of what ruddy is. It's reddish brown. It's not red and it's not white, right? But unfortunately, there's a false ideology and dogma that's going around saying that, if you're fair skinned, you're white, And if you're ruddy, you're red, right? It's not true. So in continuation again. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment. Okay, so it says he came out red all over, right? It didn't say that he was a hairy garment. He said it was like a hairy garment. So when you look up something that's colored red, like you can look at it ain't really too much animals out there that's straight red, but just like I was saying before, some people of the faith, they like to use that as an excuse. When they look at a red heifer, it's brown, right? It looks red, but it's really brown. But they say, oh well, this is ruddy right here. And then if King David is described as being ruddy, and then if you look up the definition of ruddy and it says red, that means that Esau looked like King David. That's not true, because those are two different words, man, with two different definitions. You got red and then you got ruddy. But as it says right here in verse 25, he came out red. He didn't come out ruddy, right? And called his name Esau. Verse 26. After that came out his brother, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, or Yaakov, right? And Isaac was 80 old when she bare him. Okay, I guess you could say that's 30, right? Verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Okay, so that actually describes what people that is today. I mean, just, put one and one together and look around, what nation of people just love to be out there in nature. They love to be hunting. They love to be whitewater rafting, right? They love to be climbing mountains, so to speak. They love to be in the woods, hunting deers, hunting bears, so they can kill them and stick them on their walls and stuff like that, right? What nation of people does that? And then also when you look at another nation of people, what other nation of people that love to be chilled, right? They love to be chilling with their people, chilling in their backyards or their homes, giving a nice little cookout or whatever, chilling with their kids, playing the video games or whatever, right? Or making music, doing whatever, anything that involved them being somewhere that's close to a place where they could be indoors, right? Not necessarily home, but around a place where they could be indoors instead of the great outdoors, so to speak, right? So the only thing you got to do is just put one and one together, man, and you can see exactly who these nations of people are, man, right? Let's read that again, verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, okay? And Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents, all right? And just like they also say, which is a stigma that holds fast to most Negro women and men, we're so-called simple people. We're plain people. We like things just straightforward and honest, right? We're not really a complicated people unless we start hanging around the other nations. But other than that, it doesn't really take much to please our people, man. Just love the natural resources, our creature comforts, and we good to go, man. Treat us well, treat us equally, don't hate on us, because of, unfortunately today, because of our skin color or whatever, or because of who we are according to the biblical texture, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, which is the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of Negroid descent. You got a lot of nations of people hating on us because of that, because they know who we are, man, right? So unfortunately, you got a lot of people that's hating on us because of that. But, we're a peaceful people. You know what I'm saying? We don't care if you hate us or not. But, just treat us like how we're supposed to be treated, man. You know what I'm saying? Just like how the Most High promised us. He's going to bless us and have us be fruitful and multiply in the land of our enemies even. And, we just want to keep the ways of the Most High, serve him, and be treated fairly just like everyone else, man. Right? So that's the way Jacob is. He was a plain man dwelling in tents, just like how a majority of our people are. We're plain, simple people. That's not to say that we're simpletons or foolish or stupid, but That's to say that it really doesn't take much for our people to draw ourselves to you, to love you, to invite you in, to embrace you as a nation of people, right? That's just the way we naturally are. That's the way the Most High made us, man, right? Let's go to chapter 29, still in the book of Genesis. So just like I said before, this is all a breakdown just to get down to who the chosen lineage and the chosen people are, and who's going to be leading the path and waking up the nations, right? Which is the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Little impromptu video, just flowing in the spirit, you know what I'm saying? And especially after I seen, the so-called hip-hop artist video, right? And then when I seen the title of it, I said, nah, wait a minute, this can't be authentic. Let me listen to this video myself and see exactly what he's saying here. And then, of course, when I done that, it wasn't nothing like how the people was portraying it, man. So I had to make something concerning this. And then plus I already was planning on doing a video that's dedicated to Judah, to let the people know, also the people of the faith, that we're going to be the ones that's leading the pack, man, no matter what. And that's in all aspects, no matter if it's in this truth or if it's out in the world, if it's concerning the economy, politics, civil rights. I mean, we pave the path for everything, for everyone to live, man. Not only the people within our nation, but for the other nations of people as well. That's the reason why they over here enjoying their little creature comfort, so to speak, today in America, man, right? All of their privileges, okay? All right, so we're in Genesis 29, and we're going to go to verse 32. And it reads, Salakia. Hope my battery ain't going dead. Hopefully y'all can still hear me. Microphone check 1 2. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, surely the Most High Power hath looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. Okay, so who's her husband? That's talking about Jacob. Okay, Jacob was Leah's husband, right? Verse 33. And she conceived again and bare a son. And she said, behold, the Most High Power have heard that I was hated, and he have therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. All right, so the reason why she said she was hated, because she was less desired. That didn't mean that people hated her because she was evil, or because she was less desired or anything, because of her personality or because of the way she was spiritually. That's because she had a younger sister that was more desired physically than her, right? So that's the reason why she felt that she was hated. But it wasn't because of who she were. It was because she had so-called competition, so to speak, right? In her own household. Right? In continuation. Verse 34. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me. All right, so just like most women think nowadays, if you have 3 children, you're automatically drawn onto that man, right? Because I have borne him 3 sons, therefore was his name called Levi. Verse 35. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, now I will praise the Most High Power. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing, meaning that was her last son, right? So that's the reason why, the praise is given to the Most High, given through Judah to the Most High from Leah, because Judah was her 4th son, and the Most High basically confirmed the marriage of Jacob with her, And when she had Judah, she blessed the Most High, right? So that's the reason why Judah is the head tribe. That's the reason why they're the blessed tribe of all of the tribes, because Leah blessed the Most High when she had him, right? So in continuation, we're going to go to chapter 38, still in the book of Genesis, right? So all of this is leading up to the point, man, right? To let you know the reason why Judah will be leading the pack, and we're the blessed out of all of the tribes, right? So we're in chapter 38, still in the book of Genesis, and we're going to start at verse 17. And it reads, "And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Wilt thou give me a plague or pledge till thou send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thy hand. And he gave it to her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him." Okay, so this is talking about Judah, all right? And this is talking about the woman who he was dealing with, right? And which you will see later on in the verses. Verse 19. "And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood." Verse 20. "And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adulamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not." Verse 21. "Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot?" All right, so the woman who he was dealing with was a so-called harlot, right? So, mainly just to give you a quick, brief description of the story, the woman that he was dealing with, he was actually promising her to his three sons, which was Onan, and Shelah, right? But a lot of them wind up dying because a lot of them was born by, heathen women. And then they wound up being three wicked sons because they wasn't from a holy union. They wasn't from women that was of the chosen lineage of, the Eber lineage, the Hebrew lineage, right? So the Most High wound up killing them because they wasn't impregnating her, right? And then when Judah wanted to give her to his last son, if you read the whole story, the chapter 38 in the book of Genesis, you will see why, right? But it was because he was supposed to give her to his last son because he was still young. So, Judah told her to hold tighty, so to speak, until he get of age, and then, he's going to marry you and bear children with you. But I guess, the woman, the so-called harlot that he was dealing with, she growed impatient, and then Judah wind up sleeping with her, and then, I'm going to get into it, right? I don't want to jump the horse, right? Verse 21. "Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot in the place." Verse 22. "And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place." Verse 23. "And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her." Verse 24. "And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, hath played the harlot." Okay, so that's letting you know exactly who she were. Her name was Tamar. And just like I said before, she was promised to Judah's three sons, but two of them died because they didn't impregnate her. So Judah promised her to his youngest son, which was Shelah, But she grew impatient, and then she wound up sleeping with Judah, right? And then she wound up being impregnated by Judah, right? Because she played the harlot, okay? Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. Right? So I guess Judah at that time didn't recognize that he was the one that impregnated Tamar. But according to the ways of the Most High, you know, the harlot, you know, the person who's married or promised or espoused to someone, if she have an affair with another man that she's not promised to, then she's entitled to death, right? That's a judgment of the Most High, right? So Judah was following the ways of the Most High, but at that time he didn't know he was the one that impregnated Tamar, right? So that's the reason why he said, bring her forth so she can be burnt, right? Verse 25. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, which is Judah, right? By the man who these are, am I with child? Right? So that's speaking about Judah. She's saying, yo, by the man who I am, you know, who told you to bring me forth, that's who I'm pregnant by, right? By the man whose these are, I am with child. And she said, discern. Like, think about it, right? I pray thee, whose are these, the signet and the bracelets and the staff? So of course she's telling the people who bring her forth, like, yo, whose items are these right here? Like, think about it, discern. Like, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I mean, you around the guy every single day, you should know who these items belong to, right? Verse 26. And Yahweh acknowledged them and said, she hath been more righteous than I, because I have gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. So Judah acknowledged that, you know, okay, well, that's mine. You know what I'm saying? But at the time, he didn't know that Tamar was her because she had the veil on, right? So that's when Judah said, you know, she been more righteous than me because I'm the one that messed around with her, but I didn't know who she was, right? And that's one thing about these scriptures, man. These scriptures have great stories to them, right? So to some people, it may be too long or whatever to read or to listen to. But a lot of these situations that took place in the scriptures, man, is actually going on today. It's just unfortunate. A lot of our people are unaware of these things because they don't read the scriptures. But they actually experiencing these things on a daily basis. If not them, someone they know, right? Verse 27. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, how hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon me. Therefore his name was called Pharez. Okay, verse 30. And afterward came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah, right? Which is also, if you change that Z to an S, it's Sarah. All right, so actually Judah and Tamar, they was naming their second son after Sarah, but they just took the S and turned it into a Z. Sort of like how you see Zion in the book of Apocrypha is spelled with an S instead of a Z, right? So that's basically what went on right here. So that's the reason why some people will say, you know, Zerah and Pharez, they're actually of the 12 tribes of Israel because they're from Judah, which is the blessed son of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So in continuation, let's go to chapter 49, still in the book of Genesis. And as you can see, a majority of this video here, it's in the book of Genesis, right? Because this, like I said, this is all a breakdown to how Judah became the chosen son of all of the 12 tribes of Israel, and how they're going to lead the way in waking up all of the nations, right, before the return of Hamashiach, the second turn, that is. So once again, we're in the book of Genesis still, chapter 49. And I'm going to go to verse 8, and it reads, Yahweh, thou art he whom thy brother shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Okay, so that's talking about the brothers. Okay, and then the enemies, when it says that thou hand should be in thy enemy's neck, that's talking about Esau. All right, Esau, he's the enemy of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and then when it says right here also, like I said, thy father's children, which is the other 11 sons, shall bow down before thee. Verse 9. Yahweh is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son. Thou art gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? Right? So now our people are asleep, man. They don't know who they are. They don't know who their God is. They're taught that all of the laws are done away with in Churchianity and Roman Catholicism. They're into all of these false religions, false ideologies and philosophies and dogmas and stigmas. Our people were asleep, man, especially the tribe of Judah, right? We're in these secret societies, so to speak, right, for the filthy lucre. And we're like a lion that's couched down, man, right? Because that's what our tribe is symbolic for, the lion, right? Which is the king of the Serengeti, so to speak. I don't want to say the jungle, because there's no such thing as a lion being in the jungle, because there's no lions in a literal jungle, right? But the lions is in, the Serengeti, right? Verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. What is Shiloh? Shiloh is peace, right? That's rest, right? That's your Sabbath, so to speak, right? When the second coming of Hamashiach is here, we're going to have eternal rest, right, from our enemies. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be, okay, which is the brothers and the descendants of his brothers, all right, which is of the 12 tribes of Israel. So everyone is going to be gathered on to Hamashiach when he returns, right? And this also lets you know that it's speaking about Hamashiach in the Old Testament, because he's also known as Shiloh, which is peace, okay? Verse 11. Binding his foal onto the vine, and his ass colt onto the choice vine. Okay, so as it says in the Gospels, when Hamashiach came riding into Jerusalem, he was riding a donkey, which is another word for colt, right? A horse. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Verse 12. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Okay, so this is to be taken in a metaphorical or spiritual sense. Okay, the wine is the doctrine, right? That's the knowledge of these scriptures, the wisdom. And then you have the white, right, which is pure, holy. Okay, and then you have the milk, which is the basic doctrine for the people who's just waking up to who they are, knowing that they're of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of Negro descent. letting them know, according to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, that they are a holy people unto the Most High. They are the chosen people above all other people in the world, man. Okay, so that's the basic milk there. All right, the keeping of the 10 commandments, the big 10, so to speak, the dietary law, the Sabbath, right? So that's the milk that Hamashiach is going to be filled with in his teeth, which is his mouth. All right. So that's also letting you know there that Hamashiach is in the Old Testament, right? All right. So in continuation, let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 10.